Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. In today's video, we will look at three very important properties that you have to know when you do math. So we will have a look at the associative, the commutative, and the distributive property. And whenever we have, for example, an equation or we have a term that we want to simplify, with those three properties, we know what we are allowed to do with variables, for example, that are in our equation. You will use them all the time. You have to know them. Otherwise, your math life will be very problematic. I would say we go right into it. Let's start with the associative property. The associative property tells us that if we rearrange the brackets in an expression, it will not change the result. So what does that mean? Let's say we have something like A plus B plus C. Now, if the associative property is true for that case, then we can put brackets however we want to, and it will not change the end result. So what do I mean by that? We can now put the brackets, for example, here around the A and the B. So that would mean we first sum up A plus B and then add the C. And that would be the same as if we put the brackets somewhere else. Where could we put the brackets as well? We could put them here around the B and the C. And so if the associative property is fulfilled, then this is true. So we can put the brackets wherever we want to put them. It will not change the end result. Let's have a look at an example and see with actual numbers that this expression here is true. So let's say I just pick A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 3. So now, what does that mean? That would mean opening bracket 1 plus 2 plus 3. What is that? 1 plus 2 is 3 plus the remaining 3 is 3 plus 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, and this should be the same as here the right side, which would mean 1 plus opening bracket 2 plus 3, which is 1 plus, and then we sum up those two, which are 2 plus 3, which is 5. So we have 1 plus 5, which is 6. And now we see 6 and 6. So the left and the right side, they are the same. The associative property, it's not only true if we have here a plus sign. It's not only true for addition. It's also true for multiplication. So what does that mean? A times B in brackets times C is the same as A times B times C. So same as earlier, we can rearrange the brackets and the end result does not change. Let's have a look at our example. So that would mean 1 times 2 in brackets times 3, which is 1 times 2 is 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is then 6. And this should be the same as 1 times opening bracket 2 times 3. So this would be 1 times, then we multiply those two, which are 6. So 1 times 6 is 6. So once again, we see it's right. We have here 6, we have here 6. So for both, we do get the same result. So the associative property is true for addition as well as multiplication. But what about subtraction? Does subtraction also fulfill the associative property? What would that mean? So if the subtraction also is associative, that would mean that A minus B minus C is the same as, but we have to look if this is actually true, is the same as A minus opening bracket B minus C. So let's have a look at our examples. The first one would be 1 minus 2 minus 3, which is 1 minus 2 is minus 1 minus 3. Minus 1 minus 3 then leads to minus 4. So that was the left side here. The right side would be 1 minus opening bracket 2 minus 3. So we first do this. So we have 1 minus, and then 2 minus 3 is minus 1. And 1 minus minus 1 is 2. So now here we see the left side will be minus 4, the right side will be 2. So we do not get the same result. And this is not true. Subtraction is not associative. So we cannot put the brackets however we want to, because it will change the result. So we are never allowed to do that. What else is there? There's also division. Let's check that as well. So is A divided by B in brackets and then divided by C the same as A divided by B divided by C? And therefore I would also suggest to go directly into our example. So is A divided by 2 divided by 3? So is 1/2 divided by 3, which is times 1/3, which is 1/6. Is this the same as the right side, which would be 1 divided by 2 divided by 3? So this is 1 divided by 2/3, which is the same as 3/2. And here we see, as for subtraction, we also get different results. We get here 1/6 for the left side, and we get 3/2 for the right side. So we get different results, and this is not true at all. For addition and multiplication, the associative property is true. However, for subtraction and division, it's not true. Good. Let's continue with the next property, which is the commutative property. So what's the commutative property about? Let's say we have A plus B, and the commutative property now tells us that this is the same as B plus A. So the order in which we sum up two numbers doesn't matter. We can just switch them. We always do that, so we don't think about in which order we sum actually two numbers. But are we allowed to do that? Who says that this is right? And this is actually the commutative property. The commutative property tells us that A plus B is the same as B plus A. So we are allowed to change the order for summation. Okay, so let's have a look at the numbers. 1 plus 2. So if we have 1 and we add 2, we have 1, then we add 2, 2, 3. So the final result is 3. And if we have 2 and we add 1, so we are already at 2 plus 1, we also get to 3. Let's have a look for multiplication. So A times B is the same as B times A. We also do that all the time. We switch it, and the commutative property allows us to do so. So let's look at the numbers. 1 times 2. So 1 times the 2 is a 2. And this is the same as 2 times 1. 2 times the 1, so we have 1, 1, and then we have another 1, and they are then also 2. So we have 2 ones, so it's 2. So we see the commutative property is right for addition and for multiplication. Let's look at subtraction. What about subtraction? Is A minus B the same as B minus A? Is this true? Well, let's have a look at our example. So is 1 minus 2, which is minus 1, is this the same as 2 minus 1, which is 1? Is minus 1 the same as 1? No, it's not. So we see that Subtraction does not fulfill the commutative property. What about division? Is A divided by B the same as B divided by A? Let's go once again into our numbers. So is 1 divided by 2, which is 0.5, is this the same as 2 divided by 1, which is 2? So is 0.5 the same as 2? No, it's not. So division also does not fulfill the commutative property. So addition and multiplication, they are commutative. We can just change the order whenever we want to change it, but we cannot do that for subtraction and we cannot do that for division. Let's continue with the third property, with the distributive property. So what does the distributive property tells us? The distributive property tells us if we have something like A times opening bracket B plus C, and this is the same as A times B plus A times C. We have seen that here on the channel several times. It's also, I introduced it, I explained it also when we want to eliminate a bracket with a multiplication sign in front of it. Then we have to put here this one to everybody inside. And this is exactly what we see here. A with B and A with C. So this is the distributive property. Let's have a look at our example. So we have 1 times 2 plus 3. So what does it mean? We first have to sum those two up. So the 1 stays times 5, which is 5. Is this the same as 1 times 2 plus 1 times 3, which is 2 plus 3, which is 5. So we see that it is. Okay, so we have seen that the associative property means it doesn't matter where we put brackets, and we have seen that this is true for addition and multiplication. Then we have seen that the commutative property means that we can just change the order of the numbers, and this is also right for addition and multiplication. And then we also have seen the distributive property, which gives us a rule if we have a multiplication sign in front of a bracket where we have a plus or a minus sign. So maybe we should add that here if we have something like A times B minus C. This is the same as A times B minus A times C. So we take the A here and we have to put it to those parts, and we also take the minus sign of the C. So it will be A times B minus A times C. Let's also add the example here. It would be 1 times 2 minus 3, which is 2 minus 3 is minus 1, so 1 times minus 1, which is minus 1. And on the other side, we would have 1 times 2 minus 1 times 3, which is 2 minus 3, which is minus 1. So we see here we also are right. Okay, so then we have seen, so we also have seen the distributive property. Okay, I really hope you learned something during the video. I hope you liked it. If you do so, if you have learned something, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you have other topics that you want me to explain, please also let me know in the comments. And also have a look in the description of the video, because in the description you can find, as always, the notes. In the description you can also find exercises to practice the topic. So thank you very much, and I hope I will see you in one of my next videos. Bye!